Welcome to Thrive, the podcast. So today I'm speaking with Marianne Hartley. Marianne is an author, brand designer, and energy healer. She's also the founder of Hartley Soul, a branding and design agency. Marianne has worked with clients such as Toyota, the Queen's Diamond Jubilee Pageant, Intercontinental Hotels, Bacardi, and with other entrepreneurs, visionary business leaders, and startups. Her book, Align and Shine, Gain an Unshakable Foundation to Build Your Legacy Brand, was a finalist at the Reader's Choice and the Business Book Awards in 2023. In this conversation, we uncover the way Marianne became a leader in branding design and what it took her to get here. Welcome to Thrive, the podcast. Today I'm speaking with Marianne Hartley, author of Align and Shine and founder of Hartley Soul, a branding and design agency. Welcome, Marianne.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you for inviting me onto Thrive.
You're so welcome. I'm so thrilled to be having this conversation, and I'll tell you why. You know, we just before we started, we were talking about the energy and your journey with really honoring and valuing what you could deeply see at quite a young age, and how that gave birth really to Hartley Soul and the path that you've taken. So I'd really love to share that with people, you know, that journey that you've been on, and, you know, demonstrate the power of following what we know to be true in our heart versus following the path that has been told to us.
Yeah, thank you. So the best way is probably to share an anecdote with you that takes us back to my childhood when I was about 5 at the time, and my mother had a very dear friend, a very eccentric artist, and we used to go to see exhibitions and galleries. It might have been monthly, might have been weekly. It seemed like a lot. And as a child, I was intrigued. I mean, I always felt like they spent way too long in these spaces, right? Because they could spend half an hour in front of a painting, and after 15 minutes, I was ready for the next thing, as a child would be. But one thing struck me and stayed with me since then is that whatever the exhibition was, there was an atmosphere that I could feel and sense being in a museum or a gallery. And it was something that felt very nurturing. And, you know, the paintings were like an invitation to question, and they always left me with something that I walked away with. And I particularly remember one exhibition from a Swiss artist called Audelaire, and he'd painted his wife who was dying. And the paintings were really quite stark, but there was such beauty in them as well. And it left a really deep imprint in me. And I remember going out, and then, you know, we went out into the street, and I saw billboards, and I was like, gosh, the feeling and the energy I was getting from these big images were so different to what I'd experienced inside the gallery. And it left me slightly puzzled, because out on the street, I felt like the images were very loud. They were jumping out at me and felt like a punch often. And in a gallery and in a museum, the images were like a window that sort of invited me to enter another world. And I was wondering why there weren't more people in galleries, and why the pictures we were seeing on the street had to be so different. So then, as a teenager, I really noticed how the images I was seeing didn't make me feel very good. And I was curious about that. So I'd walk down the road and see an ad, and I was like, gosh, I've really felt it in my body. And afterwards, with some questioning, I realized, well, actually, the images we're given or, shown are quite, make you feel like either you fit in with this picture, or you don't. And if you don't, well, who are you and how do you fit into society? So the images were asking me to either look a certain way or have certain things. And to me, they didn't, neither felt and sounded true.
Mm.
So this led me to then study graphic design. And I thought, if I don't like what I'm seeing in advertising, is there a way I can understand how it's done and maybe offer something different? Because I was thinking, wouldn't it be great if we walked down the street and we'd see images and read messages that really made us feel good, and we'd get to work and we'd feel empowered, and we knew what we were here to create and contribute, and it would lift us up.
Mm.
Whereas I felt the images were actually doing the opposite.
Mm.
So yeah, so then I studied graphic design and was really, absolutely loved the graphic exploration and how you could communicate something through an image.
Mm-hmm.
And another influence in my childhood was nature.
Mm.
And my parents having divorced when I was very, very young, I did spend a lot of time at times alone in nature, and I felt nurtured. And
Yeah.
one of my favorite places was to sit in an apple tree in the garden. And that felt really like I felt supported by the tree more than by the family structure.
Yeah. Yeah.
So with nature, I noticed that similarly with art as well. Well, in nature, there's the colors, there's the shapes, there's the patterns, there's the textures, and there's also an energy. So being out in nature, I always felt, I felt nourished. And later on, you discover when you do some research around nature how, well, nature has this ability to also regulate our nervous system, and because we're part of nature, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I so felt that also growing up in, an expansive horizon by the ocean. And
Oh, wow.
you just dream. Your imagination doesn't have a limit in that type
Yeah,
of environment because you can see as far as your eye can go.
yeah.
And just the landscapes that we live in where, we're closed off a lot of the time from that expansive landscape, I think it has an impact,
Yeah, yeah.
on, on what we believe is even possible.
Yes, yeah, totally.
Mm. So I guess at some point, so you're Swiss, you live in Switzerland, but you
Yeah,
came to London for a little while, and
yeah.
at the beginning of your career, I believe, as a graphic
Yes.
designer.
So I'm Swiss and British. My father was English,
Okay.
and so I'm dual national. So I have
Right.
roots in both countries.
Yeah.
And I was curious. One of my dreams was to live and work in London. And in my mind, I thought I would just do this for a year. So after finishing college in Switzerland, I arrived in London with my portfolio under my arm and thought I would work in design and branding for a year and return back to Switzerland. And this 1 year turned into 29 years.
Wow. Okay. London seems to have that impact on people. Mhm.
Yes. I remember meeting the girlfriend of a friend, And she said, she was Spanish, and she said to me, oh, I came to London and I wanted to spend 3 months, and I've been here 3 years. And I was like, oh my goodness, what does that mean about me? If I want to stay a year here, what does that mean?
Mm. What was that journey like for you, you know, being in London, being in a place that was partly home, but partly quite unfamiliar?
Yeah, no, London was totally unfamiliar actually, but I was really intrigued. I'd between 15 and 18, I'd spent 3 years in the UK, but out in Sussex at a Steiner school.
Oh,
And so that wasn't too far from London, and we'd come up to the big city every now and then. And that's when the dream arose of, you know, I would love to live and work here at some point. But obviously, when you visit a place and when you live in a place, it's a totally different experience. So I had visited London when I was 10. That was the first time I came to the UK with my father and my mum, visiting my family. And then when I decided to come and live in London, yeah, it was incredibly testing. Like everything was tough. Where I was living was difficult. The journey to where I was at first, it took me 5 weeks to find my first week of work, and I was offered 1 week's work in a small agency in Holland Park, and I was living in Manor House, which was over an hour's journey one way. And yeah, at the end of this first week, my boss said, okay, see you Monday. So I knew I had another week, and it was very, very precarious to start with. And he was probably a complete lunatic, which I didn't realize until later on, because one day I was the best, the next day I was the worst. And he
oh,
always had a black sheep.
right.
Every day it was somebody else, and we'd sort of know within the first 5 minutes when he'd walked through the door who it was going to be. So if it wasn't you, you were like, all right,
So that's
okay.
his family dynamics playing into his role as CEO.
Oh, probably.
Mm.
Yeah. And he was so, you know, he was absolutely charming at times, and then totally just like he could break you the next moment. And it was really, as it was my first experience in the working world in design, I wasn't sure if all the CEOs were like this, or,
Mm.
you know, I didn't have a comparison.
Wow. I think of my 18, 19, almost 20-year-old, actually 20 tomorrow. And I
Oh.
think about his experiences of, you know, who he is facing that type of world.
Mm,
Yeah, it's quite the initiation.
totally.
Yeah.
And, you know, as hard as it was at the time, I mean, nothing was as tough afterwards. So it really was, actually, now I can be thankful, you know, that it was so difficult. And so it was about like after 3 months, he offered me a full-time job, and I turned it down because I was like, no, I don't want to be tied into something, into dynamic like this. But in the end, I ended up staying a full year, and then freelanced in a different company after that. And yeah, really every other company I then worked in was just, I mean, so much easier and so much more supportive and so much more, yeah, expansive
Mm.
than this one.
Mm. So as you were freelancing, at what point did that awareness that you had when you were 4 or 5 start to kind of come back in and show itself?
Mm. So I'd always, like, obviously loved London, also because of the the culture and the art scene. So I'd go to exhibitions and concerts, and, you know, and the theatre. So the visual, like the art world, always fascinated me and has been part of my life throughout. So that was always there. But then I remember going to my first Mind, Body, Spirit event,
Yeah.
and I was fascinated, by this like other worlds, the sort of world that you can't necessarily see, but it's there, you sort of feel it. And but it's harder to describe because you can't say, well, it's this shape and it's, that
Mm.
size, and you can grab it and hold it, and
Mm.
because it's much more intangible. So I absolutely loved that world, but realized that my colleagues in the design world weren't so interested. And so I didn't talk about it because I obviously didn't want to be seen as too woo-woo or, too different. I wanted to belong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, I did. One of the first things I did was to do a Reiki course. So for, energy healing. And I really, that must have been in 2000. Yeah, I think that was around 2000. And again, that was a world I was totally fascinated by, but hadn't, yeah, my friends at the time were not.
Mm.
And my colleagues at work weren't either. So yeah, it's something I just pursued for myself, and then created another world of, or another area of friends who were interested in this.
Yeah.
But for me to then, the visual, the design, and the energy made complete sense together.
Mm.
So it was a bit like I was living in two worlds, and
So how did those two worlds come together? Because it's not obvious to everybody, this type of connection.
no. So really, they came together fully for me when I launched Hartley and Soul. And I
Mm.
launched Hartley and Soul in 2013.
Mhm.
And it was thanks to my business mentor, Mike Harris,
Mhm.
where I felt the support to actually bring these two together.
Mm.
And when I launched it, Liz, I felt like I was doing a coming out. I was terrified. I
Oh,
was
oh,
completely, I had the feeling I was going to be rejected by the design industry, that, well, that I was doing something so different and odd that, you
mm,
know,
mm,
I was, I was scared.
mm.
But for me, it made complete sense. But for it to make sense for me, and then to say I'm an energy healer and designer, and uh, I create brands that connect to the heart and are a true reflection of your vision and values, was huge. And
Yeah.
obviously, as you know, with all big challenges or things that terrify us, once we go through it, it's incredibly liberating.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I really get, I mean, isn't it beautiful how your name just feeds into the name of your business? It's like in this moment, you're putting your heart and soul into the world and you're showing it
Yes.
to the world. You're saying, this is me and I'm taking my place here,
Yeah.
whether you like it or not.
Yes.
And that's the point of going, yeah, to value ourselves, to honor ourselves, whether or not anybody else does, to know
Yeah.
that what we hold inside, that's your unique essence, your unique code was to see this connection between
Mm.
energy and image,
Mm.
and to be able to translate that in a way that when we see something, we receive its energy, not
Yes.
just its visual imprint.
Yes. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And yes, that the fact that everything has an energy, really, I'm sure you've had this experience of walking into a space and just not feeling good at all.
Yeah, sometimes you see a picture even of
Oh yeah.
say, property, and
Oh
you can
gosh.
immediately see that something, I've had it where I felt like I'm standing in a graveyard with a ton of, you know, it's like, whoa, what is that? Right.
Yes.
I don't want to be there kind of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not logical, right? It's not something you can describe with logic, but it's something you feel and you sense. And I believe we all have this, we pick up things energetically all the time, but because it's not so logical, at times we probably go, oh, it's, nothing's wrong here, everything's fine, I can't see anything. But spaces hold energy. So you can also walk into space and feel so good, and you're like, wow. Obviously in nature this happens a lot, right?
Mm.
You walk along the beach and look at the sky or look at the sunset, and you're like, gosh, this is so beautiful. And your body relaxes and you feel more at ease, you feel more connected to yourself, and suddenly you feel connected to others and the world, because beauty has this impact on us.
There's something else about that. I'm just seeing that even when we're outside and say it's winter and everything is broken down and all the leaves are on the ground, and there's maybe have been a storm, and so there's tree trunks and other pieces of nature disintegrating and degrading, it still feels good.
Yeah, because it's real.
Mm.
And that's part of life, right? Things grow, expand, and then they wilt and they die, but it's for the next, it becomes soil for the next generation or the next. In winter it looks like nothing's ever going to grow again because it looks so dead.
Mm.
Yet under the ground everything is ready, and you're like, wow, how is this
Yeah.
possible?
So we're still feeling this energy, even though
Yeah.
we cannot see it because it appears to our eyes that everything is dead. We're still connected to the life force of
Yes.
nature, and we feel energized and invigorated by being in it, right?
Yeah. And I think one of our challenges at the moment is that we forget that we're connected or part of nature,
Yeah.
because everything we do, we're on our devices all the time. There's so much input that takes us away from our nature, our true nature, and nature outside. So most people don't look up or look around anymore, because, or we don't, we're looking at our phones even when we're walking down the street. And there's so much to see always, and there's beauty all around us that can uplift us or bring a smile. Or
Mm. How do you bring this into your design work? Because obviously, design for a lot of companies who seek branding, they do want something that's penetrative
yeah.
and impactful.
Yes.
So, and what we're talking about is the energy of what is real.
Mm-hmm.
How do you marry those places in your work for your clients?
Yeah. So if you look at the designs I've created, they'll always be simple. So simplicity, we remember things, that are simple, they stick in our minds. So it's got to have a simplicity and an elegance, and elegance and simplicity last, and that they stand the test of time. If you look at brands that have been around for a long time, their visual part will be incredibly simple most of the time. One of the challenges that most entrepreneurs or business owners face when they create their own brands is they want to say everything with the logo. And actually, it's definitely a less is more, but being able to capture the essence, which is what really the book is all about. It's understanding first what's the reason why you are doing the work that you're doing, the types of clients you actually really want to work with, what your contribution is to the world. You know, what is it that you're bringing that no one else can bring? Really defining this, that's the essence. That once we've captured it, this is why I don't do any designs, nothing visual, until we've really sensed this and captured this essence. Once we have it, the intention with the logo and the website and all the visual collaterals is for this essence to be present. So it's like an imprint in the visual, but it's something that's energetic. So really, the logo.
It's fascinating to hear you say this, because I looked at your site a while ago, and now you talk about it's remembered, and I remember what some of, you know, because I looked through some of the examples. I remember, you know, whereas it's interesting, isn't it? You can go on a website, you can see all their branding, but you might not necessarily remember it.
No.
But it has a big impact when you look at it, but you don't remember it.
Yes.
Which is fascinating. I'm just seeing it now as you've described it.
Yeah. And obviously, you know, a brand, a logo for a business, of course, it's there to sell your product. It is there. It's to support you being successful in what you do. Absolutely. If you have a beautiful brand and nothing happens, it's not a successful brand. But when you have a brand that really captures your essence, it does a lot of the talking for you when you're not around, right? Because people sense we're actually attracted. It's all the way we buy things, or the way we are drawn to a specific person or a specific product. We think it's rational, but really it's an emotional decision. It's an emotional decision, and then we rationalize. But also it's an energetic connection. We either feel drawn to certain things and not to others.
Yeah. You spoke about how important that is, you know, to set up that polarity, as it were.
Yeah.
You want to tell us a little bit about why that's so important?
So once you're really clear, you know, what's unique about your offering and who your ideal audience is, your ideal clients, the ones you love working with, and the ones you know that you can really help to thrive. When the brand and the logo is created with this intention, you know, I create brands with the highest intention for the business owner, for the employees, for the clients that this brand will support. It's like an energetic imprint. It's a little bit like your fingerprint, because it's totally unique. There's no, even if there's many coaches, there's not two coaches that are the same. And you're going to bring something that's totally unique, that's going to be exactly right for certain people and not right at all for others. And having this intention and real clarity that these are my ideal clients, it then becomes part of the energetic design of your brand. So you will attract, you will attract the clients that are right for you. And it's usually there's a sort of a halo of other clients that won't be specific, but that they'll still be absolutely aligned with you, because they're drawn energetically to what you're offering. And the ones who are not drawn to what you offer, they're not the ones you're here to serve. And you want this to happen within a millisecond.
Yes.
It saves you time, it saves them time. You know, you actually only want to support people that you can truly support. You
Yes.
don't want to work with people who aren't, you're not the right person for them.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Yeah. It's actually cost everyone, isn't it? When that happens, it's
Absolutely.
actually damaging to everyone.
Yes.
Yeah. There is no such thing as, you know, how would I put this? Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of different conversations in the coaching space around that, around, you know, the types of clients who you serve and the types of price points that you serve at. And it's really to do with the core fit.
It is.
Regardless of all the other conversations, it's the real seed of the fit. What's
Yes.
possible here? What's truly possible in giving a client the spaciousness to do that work that they are responsible for, you know, but you're
That's right.
holding a place for it to become seen, to
Yes.
become tangible, to
Yeah.
become known to them. And that's the journey, I feel, when you describe your journey, you know, that you had this sense around imagery, and at some point you had to choose to listen to it.
Yes.
You could have easily gone, gosh, there's something wrong with me, I'm too sensitive. You know, so I won't follow this path. I'll do it the way everybody else is telling me to do it because that's acceptable and that's getting all the money and that's the acclaim and, you know, that's the success path. Because there are people who create that way and the success is through the roof, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so we go, oh, well, in that case, then that must be the way because, yeah, and the way that I'm being drawn and shown couldn't possibly be right. There must be something wrong with me. So
Yeah.
what was that place in you when you went, oh, I've got to listen to this. I've got to bring this to the world. I've got to show my heart and my soul.
Yeah. So I have absolutely gone through these, you know, sort of the doubts as well, or the, well, maybe I have definitely gone through the, I'm too sensitive, I'm just picking up too much. But then also, actually, there was this book also about 20 years ago about the highly sensitive person. And that was an eye opener. And I was like, oh, you know, I'm not alone. This is, there are other people who are highly sensitive. And it doesn't mean there's no such thing as being too sensitive. It's just, well, we all have a different map of the world, right? And we need to understand our own map. We need to understand the world sort of around us in the world we live in, and how do they match, and how can we make it work?
Well,
And
being sensitive is a superpower, not
yeah,
you know, it's often perceived as a weakness.
that's right.
In fact, it's utilized powerfully. It's a superpower.
Yeah. And I think you've probably noticed this or come across this often, you know, the challenges we experience either in childhood or later on can become our power when we dare to look at that painful event, or that, you know, for me it was the abandonment when my parents divorced when I was just under 3, and I didn't realize until I was maybe 18 that I had this real, you know, fear of being abandoned. And it was sort of, yeah, it was present in every situation, especially in my personal relationships.
And did that, sorry, I want to ask you questions as you,
No, it's fine. Go ahead.
I was going to ask, did you see that again when you were launching Hartley and Soul?
Oh my God, yes. Yeah, no, I mean, it was stronger than that. I mean, I had sleepless nights. I was terrified. I thought I was going to die. Thought I was going to be killed. I mean, you know, and it's not rational.
Yeah.
But well, you know, that could take us into totally different conversation as well. But but this, you know, this difficult situation or trauma I experienced as a child, I've realized how it has made me super sensitive, and I can, I can sense or pick up people's state of mind or where they're at. It's made me more empathetic, and it's helping me to also connect with people and to get them on a deeper level. So it's a gift. It's become a gift. Absolutely.
So when it comes to the energy in Hartley and Soul and working with the clients that you're here to create for and with, what do you notice? What do you see? What do you experience?
When I was looking for the name of my company, at one point, I was thinking of calling my company Healing Designs. And healing has, it's like, that really felt too woo-woo. But really, it's the sort of, this is what I do, but I don't have to say it in this way. And my dear friend and colleague, Nina Jenkins, who came up with Hartley and Soul, and when I'd asked her if she could help me with the name, and she was working for Virgin at the time. And she said, well, I can't, really, I can't work with outside agency, but, this is what came to me this morning in the shower. And when she said Hartley and Soul, I burst into tears. I was like, oh my God, yes, this is it. It was like, I felt seen, and I felt like it just, yeah, I felt completely energized and moved. And so what happens? So when with a name like Hartley and Soul, of course, I'm not going to attract everyone. I'm probably not going to attract people in the tobacco industry, which is fine. There's a lot of companies or a lot of people that are not going to be interested in what I'm doing at all. And that's great, because that's fine. It's important that we're clear we're not for everyone, and that's a good thing. We want to truly serve the people we're here to serve. So the clients and people I attract are visionary business leaders. Everyone I work with is passionate about what they do. They really have a desire to make a positive difference in the world, and they truly care about what they do. And it's such a joy to work with clients like this, because we align on our values. So I have clients in the education, transformation, law, finance, really very, very varied areas. But there's actually the humanity and the care about what they do. That's where we come together.
Yeah. It's so funny, because I was going to say that finance came in quite strongly. I was thinking about how that's such a journey, that's such a big journey of entrepreneurship, handling that side. Sometimes
Yes.
you have a vision of a business, and that side is like a whole other entity.
Oh, yes.
And now there are lots of really talented coaches and consultants starting to voice that more and voice that journey for people more, and give space to that to be witnessed and held, because there's so much tension there often. As you
Yes.
grow a business, it becomes about where do you invest
Yes.
your resource to keep growing, and there are
Yeah.
so many decisions to be made in
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
equation. And yeah, it's a enormous area of change as well, I would say, in
Yeah.
people's awareness and choices.
Yeah. And with finances, I mean, I believe we all have a money story. So there's our personal money story, and then there's the business money story, in a sense. And So yeah, that's a huge area of growth, I think, for pretty much everyone.
Yeah, so true, especially as more people now. I mean, it seems to me a lot of people are moving from a world where they had a steady paycheck and a steady job to people going, oh, I want to kind of do my own thing. I want to work in my
Yes.
own way. I want to, and more people are choosing that. And yet possibly without the awareness of what that brings,
Yeah.
riding
Yeah.
out the waves of clients, no, maybe no clients, and,
Yes,
the whole journey in that.
absolutely. I mean, the entrepreneurial journey is absolutely up and down, and there are challenges and there's huge rewards. But if a specific paycheck at the end of the month is important, then the entrepreneurial journey is definitely not for you, because that's the one thing that is going to be, really up and down. And it can be, up and not fully down. But most of us have a very up and down journey with the financial aspect of our business. And you'll have times when you're totally overbooked with clients, and then when it's quieter, and it has got a life of its own.
There's two questions that come up for me in that. One is, what have you noticed with energy around that? And in what way does branding and design support the stability of that aspect of a business?
Yeah. So I'm going to answer your second question first.
Okay.
So your brand so I can share an example of sort of a before and after. One of my clients, she was like, before we worked together, she was like, oh, I'm so embarrassed to give out my card. I don't like giving out my card, because the design hadn't been her choice, and she didn't feel like it represented her and what she did. She was in the letting of flats, and so we renamed the business and created a new design. And she was so excited about her new design that she felt like she just was inspired each time she looked at it. And it gives you energy. So when you love your brand, and when you know that it truly reflects who you are and what you do, it gives you energy on the days when, well, we all have ups and downs, and there are certain days where it's harder to get out of bed. But when you remember that, oh yes, your business and your brand stands for what you're here to do, it can support you and give you that energy again on those days.
Yeah.
And with the first question, so energy is pretty much present in everything. But what I've noticed for myself and most of my clients is when we get out of alignment with ourselves, then our clients suddenly, there's less clients, or it quietens down. And when I'm fully aligned and when I'm in flow, my clients are also drawn. So it's, yeah.
You wrote this great book, Align and Shine, and we're going to get to that. Before we get to that, my question is like, what are your keys that you bring yourself back to when it comes to when you want to come back to your own alignment?
Yeah. So there's there's more than one, but my one go-to, whether I'm feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or out of alignment, I just take myself out into nature. I go for a walk. I'll spend time in a park or in the woods, or if I'm by the sea. And I give myself an hour, or however much time I have. It can be 5 minutes if it's a super busy day, but that's taking myself away from my desk and into nature. And if that's really not possible, then I take 5 minutes and look out, into the sky and breathe.
Yes.
Remember to breathe, because when we're stressed, we don't breathe very well.
Yeah, no, that's so true. I know that from very good experience, the number, not just myself, but clients in the past where actually you're not aware that you're not even breathing properly.
No.
Yeah.
And the more stressed we are, the tighter we get in our bodies.
Yeah.
So it's actually doing the opposite, or dancing around the flat is another thing. Just to get into the body and shaking it out.
Yeah. So tell us about, writing this book, because I think you shared earlier, you went on this little journey where firstly you saw about writing the book, but the book wasn't really speaking to you. So you kind of waited, or tell us.
Yeah. So I did write a first book that I didn't publish. And so Align and Shine has been over 10 years in the sort of brewing and in the making. And the first book I wrote was before I'd launched Hartley Soul. So it was before I'd consciously brought healing and design together. And so there was a bit that was missing. It just wasn't, it wasn't complete for me. So with Align and Shine, it was a journey. And Liz, I don't have children myself, but writing the book was the closest I got to giving birth. And the highs and lows, and the how often I wanted it felt too hard and I wanted to give up. I had a writing coach because I knew I wanted to have this accountability and somebody who was going to just be there along this journey with me. It allowed me to really clearly, much more clearly, hear my limiting beliefs, and they seemed to be on loudspeaker. So it was a
way when we're creating something new and different to what we've allowed ourselves to create before.
Yeah. Yes. And also, up until then, I was supporting my clients. I was creating something for someone else. With the book, this was like, this is what I'm doing. It's not that it was about me, but it is the book. No one said to me, you have to, write this book. I felt like I wanted to write it to support business owners who are setting out to create a new brand, and multiple entrepreneurs who've launched multiple businesses but wanted to go to another level, to really bring something that's really unique and bring the fullness of themselves into this new business that they're creating. So I wanted these messages to be more readily available, just for more people to have access to them. And so writing the book really allowed me to realize that there's really 3 parts to how I work with my clients before I start on the visual aspect. So the book, Align and Shine, Gain an Unshakable Foundation to Build Your Legacy Brand, it's really about all the invisible things that underpin a brand, right? So it is your values, it's your vision, it's your mission, it is who your ideal clients are. It's also what's totally unique about you. So when I work one-on-one with my clients, we work to really draw this out. And it's a beautiful process, and it's always different. And so this is the first part, which really is linked more to the the left brain, the logical brain. And then the second part, which I've often felt was really missing in branding and design is going into like tuning into the heart and connecting to the heart. And this is how you and I met with the intuition work. And it brings us, it takes us, it gets us out of our heads, and it brings us into our heart, and also connects to our soul, and really what's at the heart of what we're creating. It connects us with the essence. And then the third part is bringing really the left side of the brain with the right side of the brain. So we're bringing logic and intuition together to create a really beautiful foundation to build the brand, and to create the design that's going to hold this energetic information within it.
You know, as you shared this, the thing that's come for me, and I asked you, you know, it feels to me like this is a new level of branding and design. This is a way almost of teaching it to branding and design agencies. It almost feels like there's another book called something along the lines of the energetics of branding. You know,
Ooh, I love that.
that just
Oh,
brings
yeah.
agencies to your door. You know, there's this sense of maybe they've had a very successful branding company, yet the edge of competition has caught up with them in some way. They've noticed a slowdown in the momentum, or, you know, the contracts or whatever it is. And, you know, when they deepen in that exploration, I see it doesn't just change the branding, it also change and their delivery of that to their clients, but it also starts to transform the people in the agency that they're working with.
Beautiful.
And, you know, seeing that little girl at 4, that's the seed inside of her to bring the humanity into a much more conscious relationship with our purchasing power as consumers, for example.
Yes.
You know, it's what are we actually creating and generating here? I was speaking to a lady I know who works in water, for the water board, and she was saying the thing that people don't understand is the resources of the earth. And when the rain falls and it lands on the ground, it takes 1,000 years to go back to the main body of water. And when we're filtering it and we're cleaning it with all the gunk, all the oil, all the waste, all of this and all of that. And it's a massive job, but the public don't see it. So when we say there's a water shortage, but there's loads of rain, they don't believe us. You know, and I just see there's this expansive opportunity for better communication through the branding.
Yeah, absolutely. And true communication, because, you know, consumerism is not making us happy and is killing the earth. So buying more things, you know, there's this, we've been sold that by buying this product, we're going to feel fulfilled, but that hole that we can feel inside of ourselves can never be filled by something external.
Yeah.
We can appreciate things, but like, so beauty has a way of filling, or, you know, nourishing us and filling that void. And I do believe like nature, beauty in nature has a healing effect. And when we feel connected with ourselves through beauty, we feel connected to others, and then we want to naturally take care of the world. But when we feel disconnected, and there's so many things that lead us in this direction on a daily basis.
Absolutely. That disconnection, the discord, it's like a wobbled frequency that runs through and distorts and disturbs us constantly.
Yeah.
And then we go for things that are just not true.
That's right. And we're all, I think we all want to feel whole and feel loved and give our best. But when we're feeling disconnected, or if we're in comparison with all the input we get on social media these days, it is literally like a visual attack. And we have to be really discerning not to go down. I really feel for young people. I don't know how I would have dealt with it myself.
Yeah, it's I see it in, hiding, it's like we begin to withdraw. Then it becomes a journey to have the courage to come back out. But to come out from within yourself rather than to come out because you're trying to brave it. And
that's right.
Does have a big energetic impact on our central nervous system. And we could have such a deep conversation about that as well. It's like what is stored in our central nervous system that we just try to push past all the time, or we just to ignore all the time. Which
that we numb. Either with food or visual things or
the real opportunity though is to allow ourselves to feel it, to see it, and to sit with it, and then to begin to invite what the growth is, what's the opportunity, like you seeing very early, and then eventually meeting that point in you where you allowed yourself to receive it. Your own knowing, your own wisdom, your own inner guidance, and then meeting the people who are able to draw it from you, to help you craft it, to help you bring it to light. And that's the role of any good coach, really. To create that for clients, that space, not the end result they're creating, but the spaciousness for them to receive and integrate. Marianne, thank you for joining me. Where can people buy Align and Shine so that they can dive into their own branding journey, and where can they reach you?
So Align and Shine is available on Amazon. And if you want a signed copy, you can email me. Amazon is the simplest because it can be delivered all around the world. And you can contact me or connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm also on Instagram. On LinkedIn, I'm Marianne Hartley. On Instagram, it's Hartley and Soul for the business, and Marianne Hartley for my personal one. They're the best places to meet and connect.
I'll definitely put your details in the show notes as well, so listeners can go to those show notes and find you easily just by clicking the link rather than typing it all in.
That's better.
Yeah, that's absolutely what I'll do. Thank you so much. And
thank you, Liz.
And a beautiful conversation, really nourishing conversation.
Well, thank you for creating this space and for holding this space for these beautiful conversations. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you. If you love this episode, please like it and subscribe to the podcast. To reach Marianne, please visit the show notes where you'll find all her contact info. To reach me and find out more about my Clarity one-on-ones, the intensives, or my connection immersions, also visit the show notes. You'll find a link there to my free community, Thrive, where I have content that you can preview at your leisure. Thank you so much for listening.